Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael and today I'm going to share with you my recipe for a one-pan Mediterranean chicken. And let's get started with that seasoning that's going to go on the outside of that. I'm going to need 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and I've got a really nice olive oil here. Let's measure out 3 tablespoons. Now I've got 1 lemon here and I'm going to zest that. You want to zest this before you cut it in half, squeeze it, because we're going to use the lemon juice out of this also. But it just makes it easier when you zest it first. And when you're zesting citrus, you just want the outside. You don't want to get down into that really white part of the citrus because that's really bitter, and we definitely don't want that in our zest. So just take off the outer portion of the lemon here. All right, that looks really good. That's some nice zest on that, and I'm going to put that into this bowl with this olive oil. All right, now that I've got my lemon zested, I'm going to take a knife here, I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to juice the lemon, and we want the juice from 1 whole lemon. All right, I've got my lemon juice now with my olive oil. I'm going to set that to the side, and I've got 3 cloves of garlic, and we need to mince those. I'm going to take that outer rough skin off that, so I'm just going to take the side of the knife and give it a tap here, and that will come right off. All right, I've got that garlic minced up now, and I'm going to go ahead and add that to my lemon juice, zest, and olive oil here. All right, let's add our herbs now. So I've got 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and then I'm going to put in a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of black pepper. All right, I've got all of my seasonings here. Now I'm just going to take a kitchen brush here and I'm going to give that a little mix together to get all of that incorporated. This is going to make a fantastic seasoning for this chicken. All right, I've got my seasoning mixed together now. That smells really nicely. Those flavors are coming through. I can smell that lemon coming through there and that cumin and that paprika. We'll set that to the side, and now let's talk about our chicken. So I've got 4 pounds of chicken here. And I've got leg quarters. I really like the dark meat, but if you like the breast meat, you can definitely use that. Whatever you like, you can use about 4 pounds of chicken. Now let's put our seasoning over the top of our chicken. I'm just going to brush that on lightly, just like that, all over the pieces. I'm going to keep one hand clean here that I'll be using my chicken brush with, and I'm going to go ahead and put the seasonings on the back of the chicken. All right, I've got my chicken now with all the marinade on the top of it. I did cover the back of it also, so both sides of that. I'm just going to put some cling film here, and I'm going to set this to the side, and we're going to work on our other ingredients. All right, now that we've got our chicken marinating now, I've got 1 zucchini here, and I'm going to cut the ends off of that. And then I'm going to take it and cut it right down the middle. And then I'm going to quarter each piece by cutting each piece again in the middle. And with that, we'll kind of cut it into little bite-sized pieces. And we'll cut it into little quarters like this. All right, I've got all of my zucchini cut up now. I'm going to push that to the side. And I've got 1 onion here. This is about a medium to a large onion. And we're going to take that and we're going to dice this up. Now that I've got my onion diced up now, I've got about 8 ounces or about 220 grams of white button mushrooms here. And I've already given those a good wipe down. I'm just going to take a knife and just run that there and just kind of cut these into smaller pieces. And that's kind of what I'm looking for here, about 1/4 inch. All right, I've got all of my vegetables prepped now, and I've got some cherry tomatoes here, and I've got about 1 cup of those. And I've got some Kalamata olives, and that's about 1/2 cup of those. And I'll put the metric measurements in the description box along with the recipes. You'll have all of those measurements. Now I'm going to get ready, and this is going to come together really quickly, so I'll be right back and we'll head to the stove and get this started. I've got a brazier here, and you want any kind of a pan that you've got. I like the Dutch ovens because they cook everything really well with that, and they distribute the heat really well. So I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of olive oil in this. We want to make sure we get the bottom of this covered really well because we're going to put our chicken in now, and we're going to cook our chicken next. So I'm going to let that Dutch oven heat up just a little bit before I put the chicken in it. All right, I've got my temperature turned down on low now, and I've got my chicken here. I'm going to put skin side down first. Definitely want to make sure whatever you're cooking in that the pan is really hot. And I'm going to take the rest of my marinade and I'm just going to put that over the top of the chicken. We want all of that flavor. And there's a little bit of garlic on here. Let's not leave that behind either. All right, I've got my chicken now. It's cooking nicely. We want that to brown on each side. So I'm going to leave that in there for about 5 to 7 minutes until we get a nice brown crust on that, and then we'll turn it over. Let's check on our chicken now, and the way to test that for sure is when it's ready to release from the pan, it will release on its own. So that's always a good indication when it comes right up that it's ready to turn. So it's got a nice golden color on that. That looks really pretty. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over and cook this on the other side for another 5 to 7 minutes. All right, my chicken has cooked another 5 to 7 minutes on the other side. So I'm going to take that chicken out now, and I'm gonna put that into a pan. This is not done yet, so we will have to come back once we get our veggies and everything started, and we're gonna put our chicken in to finish cooking. I'm gonna set this to the side, and I'll come back and we'll start on our veggies. Now in the same pan here, we're gonna put in our onions and our mushrooms. I've got this on a medium-low, and I'm gonna cook these onions and these mushrooms for about 5 to 6 minutes, and that'll break the mushrooms down. You'll see a lot of the moisture come out of those, and then our onions will get a little translucent. Our onions and mushrooms are cooking down nicely, and that fond on the bottom there will deglaze the pan here in just a minute with a little bit of white wine, and that will come out really nicely, and that'll add so much flavor to our dish. All right, our onions and our mushrooms are looking really good there. I'm going to add in my zucchini now and my tomatoes. And we're going to cook these for another 2 to 3 minutes. All right, I've got 3/4 of a cup of a dry white wine. I'm going to add that in. That's about 180 milliliters. And if you don't want to use the wine, just substitute the extra there for chicken stock or water. But the wine itself will cook down. We want to reduce this in half, and it'll cook the alcohol out of it here, and it'll be a nice flavor for our dish. And I'm going to use this spatula here and just pull up that fond that's on the bottom, and that'll really reduce that flavor into our dish. Now as my wine is reducing in my veggies there, I've got 3/4 of a cup or 180 milliliters of chicken stock, and with that I've got 2 teaspoons of my Better Than Bouillon Italian seasoning, and I'm going to add that right into that chicken stock and mix that together. And I'll put the link in the description box for the Better Than Bouillon Italian seasoning that I've got here. And with that, we'll just give that a stir around until we get that mixed through. My wine has reduced down now, and I'm going to go ahead and add that chicken stock and that Better Than Bouillon seasoning into that. Now the Better Than Bouillon is going to have salt in it, so definitely we want to taste it here for seasoning to see if we want to put any more or not. I put in the 1/2 teaspoon earlier in the marinade of our chicken. We might not have to put any more in there. I'm going to let this cook for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to taste one of these mushrooms and see if we need to add any more salt or pepper to it. But we want to bring this back up to a boil again and let this cook for another minute or two. And you can see here our tomatoes have burst open on the sides there, so those will cook down nicely when we get our chicken back in here. And I've got a clean fork here. I'm going to try one of my mushrooms just to see if I need to add any more salt or pepper. All right, my seasoning for my dish here tastes really good with that. I'm not going to put any more into it, but definitely taste it at this point to see if you need to add anything else to it that you might like. Now we want to take that chicken and we're going to return it back to the pan. Turn my temperature down to about a medium-low, and I'm going to put the lid on this, and I want this to simmer for about 35 to 40 minutes. And we want that internal temperature of that chicken to come up to 175 Fahrenheit, or that is 80 degrees Celsius, and that's what the USD recommends for the internal temperature for the chicken to be done. So 175 Fahrenheit, 80 Celsius, and check on it periodically, and we'll come back and we'll look at it and we'll get ready to plate it. All right, my chicken has come up to temperature. It is done. It looks absolutely delicious. Now I've got some Kalamata olives, and I've just cut those in half. And I want to put these in here, spread these around, and we want these to cook for about 5 minutes just to soften up just a little bit. And I'm going to put that back on low, put the lid on it, and we'll come back and we'll give it a plating and give it a taste test. All right, let's take a look at our Mediterranean one-pot chicken dish. That looks absolutely delicious. So with my dinner tonight, I've got some potatoes that I've cooked, and I've got some butter on those. I've got some cauliflower, broccoli, and some carrot here that I've steamed. And let's take a look at this chicken. This smells absolutely delicious. Look at that, how incredible that is. I'm going to put that on my plate. I'm going to get some of this gravy because that's where all that flavor's at, and we'll put some of that over the top of it. Look at that, how absolutely delicious that is. And it blended right into those potatoes down there. This is going to make a great dinner. Now I've got a little bit of parsley here, and I'm going to put that over the top of that to add a little bit of color and a extra taste on that. Let's put some of that on some of those potatoes, and we'll put some up here on the top of this chicken. That looks really good. Look at that. All right, I'm going to put some parsley and garnish my dish that I've got here. We'll put some over the top of that. All right, I am ready to serve this. I've got just a little bit of lemon. I'm going to squeeze that over the top of my chicken and my potatoes and my steamed vegetables that I've got over here. This looks absolutely delicious. You're going to have to try this recipe. I know you're going to love it. I'm going to go eat my dinner now. And if you like this content, maybe you might consider giving me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And while you're at it, check out one of these other 2 videos over here on the side. You might find something else you like. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear how your one-pan Mediterranean chicken turns out. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now.